No green room. Just let's go. Hey, Randall Armstrong.
Hey, hey.
All right, sir. DORK COURT. Let's talk about French Connection. Let's jump into it, huh?
Yes, sir.
This episode brought to you by Liquid Death. Completely not a compensated endorsement. I just love it. I love their can.
Oh, yeah. I don't think I'm trying to remember. I might have drank one time a while back.
This is water, I don't have a sophisticated enough palate to go, oh yes, that's bubbly Fiji water, whatever. But I just love it. Looks like you're drinking a giant tall boy.
Yeah.
So good marketing. Anyway, talking about the French Connection, I had a blast talking with you about The Great Escape.
Yeah.
And so in the process of that conversation, I think a little of Outland too. We were like, and then of course, poor bastard died. We were like, all right, let's watch French Connection.
Yeah.
Get this out of the way. So I have some questions for you, sir. Or do you want to just give us the overview of what you felt about this show?
Oh, yeah. So, like, my overview, I was reflecting on it as I finished watching it the other day, and I thought to myself, like, you know what? I am glad that I'm watching it now, right? Because I don't think I would have appreciated it in my teens. I don't think I would have even appreciated it in my 20s, but maybe my 30s. But here in my 40s, I definitely appreciate this film. Roy Scheider's in it, along with Gene Hackman. There's really it's not a huge ensemble cast. It's, to me, those are the two big names in that movie. And like just them working together, two cops, just trying to do the best they can, trying to get big busts. They there's a lot of, it's New York, right? And it's a lot of drugs going on, a lot of crime, tough city. And, it's a great cop drama. I really dig the directing style, and even I don't appreciate it enough, but even like the quality of sound that they used in that film, it caught my attention. And what's interesting about this movie, I did a little research on it because I was curious how old Gene Hackman was when he made that movie. And so I believe he was 40 years old when he made that movie. So he was 41 when it was released in theaters. And I'm 41 right now, so it's like, it's neat to kind of connect with that. Like, like here he was at that age doing this, hit movie for back in the day. And I'm now getting to experience it at around the age that he was when he did the film.
That's cool. Do you know like the whole 1971, like what was happening in Hollywood in the early 70s?
Oh man, not too much.
So William Friedkin, director of this, he also did Sorcerer, which was like a really expensive movie at the time. I think it came out right after Star Trek, the motion picture.
Okay.
Had an incredibly inflated budget because they were setting up Star Trek Phase 2, like another 5-year mission TV show.
Yeah.
And so all those sets, not so much the uniforms and props, but the sets were for the movie were built for the show.
Okay.
And so all that was prorated into the budget of the movie. But even so, after that, there was a movie called Sorcerer that was directed by the same guy that just edged it out. It was like $41 or $42 million. And people were like, how's that even possible?
Oh, yeah,
but
yeah.
It's possible because William Friedkin is one of those guys like they were considered like Brian De Palma and Francis Ford Coppola. And then Lucas and Spielberg as kind of like the new Hollywood.
Yeah.
Lucas and Spielberg sneaked in the middle of the decade, but those three guys, De Palma and Coppola and Friedkin, were starting out the decade going. Everybody's like, wow, it's a new take on the old stuff. And this movie was freaking sort of calling card in that it's a noir. It's a noir story, Two cops stopping drugs. But there's lots of cool new things that he interjected. So in retrospect, people started calling that neo-noir. And so like you get Elmore Leonard and all that stuff coming.
Okay.
The guy who does like Bad Monkey, I forget his name. Oh my God, my wife's gonna kill me. We just Bad Monkey and the Apple show that was just on with Vince Vaughn.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
I can't believe it. Totally zoning on the writer. He's the guy from Florida. You should know him. He writes funny crap. He did the children's book Holes, but he's like super known for
I've never
crazy
seen
crap.
Holes.
No, I know, but it's Florida. You should know who your Florida people are, man.
You're right. I should.
Anyway, so that's kind of what I loved about, even as a boy watching it, that you could totally tell that it's a cop thing, but there's sort of an elevated thing to it in that everything means a little more. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I'm trying to think like how popular were cop dramas back then? Like when was because like I think right before the 70s, right? I mean, the real popular genre was westerns and
on TV.
The movie, even movies though, right?
Yeah, but that's not. You wouldn't be like, oh, I can't wait. There's a great western to come because you're getting satisfied at home,
Right.
Like if there was from like the late 60s to the late 70s, it's everything. That's kind of why I have no patience now.
Yeah.
Like because back then you could, if whatever you were into, there was at least a couple movies in that genre, right?
Oh yeah, but I think I feel like maybe French Connection was the beginning of the big boom for cop, dramas, cop, action films. Because I can't think of any cop dramas off the top of my head before French Connection. But that's also because I didn't watch a lot of the older stuff either. So
like I wouldn't say that in public. But anyway, there's lots of cool stuff like that also kind of stands out to a modern audience member, because like there's a bit where Popeye, like Gene Hackman, is chasing the French bearded guy,
Oh, that one of my favorite parts, man.
That bit in the train, that was invented. That like I'm on, I'm off, I'm on, I'm off, and then he tricks him. He goes bye bye.
Yeah.
We've seen that in a million movies and TV shows since then, but that's where they got it from. That's the sweet French Connection thing. But yeah, the French Connection, of course, is that they're moving heroin in, and you got the idea. This is based on a real story, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, definitely at the end of the movie.
So the drugs were like, that's been going on since the 30s, right? And it reached its peak in the 60s, and so that's why in the 70s they were able to stop it, because everybody was just going, well, we've got 40, 50 years of this, so I guess it's just part of the system. And so guys like in New York took care of it. I don't know. I thought the whole swaps with the cars was pretty cool. I love that as a boy. I'm like, look, there's a car in a crane in the air. Oh my goodness.
I know. I love how like they're searching the car and the gut feeling that Gene Hackman's character has. And then I love how there you have Roy Scheider just sitting there, and like everyone just looks confused because like we tore the car apart, we can't find it, Yeah. And then all of a sudden you see Roy Scheider, and he's like, "What's the weight on the car? Like what's the manufacturer weight?" And then they weighed the car before they started working on it, and they're like, "There's an extra couple 100 pounds, or there's an extra 100 pounds on this car."
20 pounds, yeah.
Yeah, and so that's when they were like, "No, we got to keep searching," And then they end up finding it, and and like leading to their big bust at the end, which was a great, I mean,
Chris has got it. When I think 60s, I think spy stuff was the big thing, like superheroes is now.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, sorry, and beach blanket movies. That's true though, but that was a format thing. They were making those things so people in drive-ins had something to watch,
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Good to see you, Chris.
But like, yeah, I mean, I'm glad I watched it. I definitely like, and what's funny is I totally forgot they made a French Connection too.
Yeah.
So now I'm intrigued to watch that one.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I just I got the idea, but the whole thing with the car chases, all of that stuff is just prototypical for like what goes on now. So I thought if we were gonna do a Randall finally watch something, it's important to see where this stuff came from. But I was dying to know, like, the pacing is completely different from the stuff you consume now.
Yeah. I mean, I think like well, I don't know. There will be the occasional movies where I feel like the movie gets slow in the middle of the movie, and that's where it felt like this movie started slowing down in the middle of the movie, but it still had my attention because it's it's all about character development. Like, you're learning more about these guys the more you see the stuff that they do. So like in the beginning, right? You have them, they're busting one guy. They've had a long day at work, and what does Gene Hackman do? He tells his buddy, "Hey, let's go for a drink, man. Let's go for a drink. Let's go." And then you see, like, it just was leading to another job, like a bust that Gene Hackman wanted to do, and then it just continues on, and then like they're just the way they interrogated. Like, it's funny, like a lot of the things that you see them do in this movie, like like legally they can't do that stuff anymore.
I don't think they could legally do it back then, but that was
That's true.
That was the thing. The Walker and I talk about narrative all the time, and there's this thing called the 20-minute rule in our house, that if you don't know what's going on in that movie by the first 20 minutes,
yeah,
like, it's the pacing is wrong, right?
Yeah.
But that's a modern look at it. And it comes from, I first noticed in 1999 in Armageddon, where they set up what the threat is,
what they need to do,
how it's discovered, how to stop it, and who all the main characters are all before it says directed by Michael Bay.
Yeah.
So that's insane, and it works, right? It's except for the animal crackers scene in the middle, that stops the movie dead. But the rest of it's kind of a switch watch ticking along for like regular screenplay format. And so I was watching this, and like, that was not a thing anybody thought about in 1971, right? Like,
no.
How's this 3-act story structure go? Where's the rising action? Like, professionals probably would, but nobody in the audience would. And so the first 20 minutes of this movie, nothing happens, right? Like, nothing happens that you understand as an audience member. Like, there's a French detective who gets murdered in
right.
in
The beginning,
France.
like, it's in France, and it's like, none of the actors that you would probably recognize or know. So you're just like, what does this have to do with the movie? Honestly, at first I was thinking like maybe they weren't in France, because like, it just looked kind of like Italy to me. But
I thought you would notice, because we love that. Hey, I got an idea. I got a solution for this. Where's yours? Oh, Avengers Mansion. Where's yours? Queens. Right.
Yeah.
The first shot in this movie says Marseille, so Marseille, that's France, right?
Yeah.
And the guy's walking around, and he's got a baguette. Man, you couldn't get more that's in France and not New York.
Right.
Or like
You
Venice.
definitely know it's not New York. New York.
This is great. My favorite thing is the real Popeye, Frog One, and Cloudy are in it. I did not know that.
Wow.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to go back. Thanks, Steve. I'm gonna have to go look at that, because, man, if I was Cloudy, I'd be so happy that I'm being played in a movie by Roy Scheider. Mimi was walking by when I was watching this. She's getting food or something, and she stops because she goes, "Oh, I love Roy Scheider," and she doesn't remember her favorite movie is Hunt for Red October, and she can't tell you what happens in that movie. She just remembers that she likes it. She's seen it like 40 times, and she just, like, every time she just sits down and goes, "Oh, I know, I love this movie." And she has like the best time, right? Oh my God, he gets shot. Oh, you know what I mean? It's like she remembers nothing. So, but she loves Roy Scheider's voice. And so I forget what scene it is, but he's doing a voiceover about explaining whatever guy they're looking at. They're doing a stakeout, and he's just rolling everything over, and she just walks by, and she's like, "Oh, I love Roy Scheider's voice. His voice sounds like molasses." And I was like, that's so cool, man, because that's what it sounds like. He's always talking. It's not like a Southern drawl, but he always talks real slow. And like I don't know. It was the second
it's like a calming
said
voice.
that, I was like, yeah, I want to watch 2010 right now, because I want to tell me that I can't go to Europa and I have to attempt no landing there.
Now, I mean, for me, Roy Scheider, my first experience with that guy, of course, was Jaws, and then growing up watching Sequest. So those were like the main things I always saw Roy Scheider in. So like, it's cool to see like him younger and him like, doing these types of films. And I'm just like, it's like just looking at another side of his acting.
Cool. The real Popeye is Hackman's supervisor, Steve says. Okay. Yeah, the old guy.
Okay.
That makes sense. But that was the thing I was gonna bring up, that there's a movie thing in there that he has a really distinctive pork pie hat, and I'm like, and if you're like chasing some French drug guy and trying to tail him through the streets of New York, don't fucking wear a hat that they can spot you a block and a half away, because
Exactly.
nobody wears that thing. But whatever. All right, that's cool. Okay, the end.
Yeah. No, I really enjoyed it. I'm like, and like I said, the directing style. It's funny. I don't think I've seen a lot of Friedkin's films. I know like his like probably one of his most like big famous ones is The Exorcist. I've never seen The Exorcist, so it's just one of those like. I know I saw like one of his later movies. I'm trying to remember what it was.
You got to find To Live and Die in L.A. if you haven't seen that one.
No, I haven't, but I've always heard good things about that one.
I don't even know if you can get that now. I don't know. I feel like there was a thing where like you couldn't get that movie, or maybe it's Falcon and the Snowman. There's some LA based crime movie that the rights are messed up, so you can't get it.
It might be Falcon and the Snowman, because I never see anything on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. We were talking about Bond the other day, and somebody said Dr. No is like this forgotten one, and I was like, really? Like
it's the first one, though.
The first one, but they were talking about having it on TV, like it's never on FX or anything. It's hard to find, and I was like, oh yeah, because modern audience, that's pretty racist.
Yeah.
Sounds like Steve's got it. Whatever. To Live and Die in LA.
Oh, sweet.
Sounds good. Anyway, yeah. So Dr. No is like, I believe we were talking about, what they were gonna do with the Bond character, and somebody, I think it might have even been Mark. He said on DORK COURT, he was like, just remake Dr. No so people can take it.
Yeah,
like, that's cool.
Yeah, remake the Bond films, right? Modernize.
Well, no, just Dr. No. That was
just Dr. No.
Just Dr. No, because it was just too racist. All the other ones are fine.
Yeah.
I don't know about You Only Live Twice, where they make up Bond to look like he's Japanese, but I think you can kind of get away with that one because he's trying to save his life, right? He's not pretending to be a Japanese guy. He's pretending to be a spy who's wearing a disguise to get him out of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then didn't they make like a Woody Allen one with Casino Royale?
Yes.
Yeah, that one I need to see.
No, it's horrible. It's done in the style of late 60s comedy. It looks like somebody saw Austin Powers and then went back in time and tried to do James Bond and didn't get why Austin Powers worked.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Although David Niven makes a pretty good James Bond.
Okay.
I think that's funny. It's kind of not a Woody Allen movie, really. He's just one of the guys who plays James Bond.
Right. Yeah. I think David Niven, I remember him in, I think, what was it, Murder by Death?
Okay.
I remember really enjoying that. Like, I'm a big fan of Clue, and I remember I just saw the trailer for Murder by Death, and I saw this ensemble cast, and it just reminded me of Clue. So I was just like, oh, I got to watch this one day. And of course, you have Peter Sellers playing an Asian character, which is also.
Go ahead and watch it if you want. I'm not endorsing that as a good use of your time. That's all.
Yeah.
Steve's like, Freakin's best is Sorcerer. I can't argue with that.
Okay.
I really like Live and Die in LA though. There's some later ones. Huh. He did some TV with Kiefer Sutherland, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, okay. I like Kiefer.
Niven and Guns of Navarone. Yeah. It's hard to talk about guys from the 40s and 50s with a guy who doesn't watch TV and movies, playing video games and reading comics and stuff.
I try my best. I like watching obscure stuff, but obscure stuff of the 80s and 90s.
So we should ask the Ukraine questions. Did you have an idea about the show, before the movie before you watched it?
French Connection?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit, only because I've seen people talk about it, like critics, when they're doing their whole run of hey, these are the top best films. And of course, they always mention about like the action at the end of French Connection was just like hardcore and one of the best car chase scenes,
So
and so,
you knew it was a seminal film then, right?
oh yeah. I mean, like watching it, like at one point, I'm getting ready to like take a break from the film, like go use the bathroom or whatever, and I realized like yeah,
You were eating cookies. I know it.
yeah, and I realized like he's chasing after the French guy, and I'm just like, oh, this is going to lead into that monumental like big the car chase scene or whatever. So I was like, I need to go do what I need to do real quick, get back and get ready for the big scene. So because I was even checking to see like how much time was left in the movie, and I'm like, okay, it's coming up, it's getting there. So and it's definitely like one of the best scenes. Like my two favorite scenes are the train scene when he on and off the train, and then of course that that the car trying to catch up to the subway, and it was an awesome yeah, there's some awesome scenes, man.
There's a lot of I just thought of this talking to you that there's a lot of like missed connections, right? And I'm like, oh, that's an interesting. That would be good if we were writing an article about making a play on words for the French connection of getting the heroin into America, but also like the connection that the cops are trying to make with the bad guys, right?
Right.
Because there's always like some really inventive like, oh, I just missed the guy, like,
Yeah.
which I think is pretty neat.
Well,
Also,
even with the way they end the movie, it was a very interesting way how they ended the movie. Because like the one French guy, the main French guy, they say at the end of the movie he gets away, but
yeah,
you see Gene Hackman, he's like, I know he's in here, and you see him like run off into this like dark room, and then all you see is kind of like darkness, and you hear a gunshot,
yeah.
and then that's it, credits, so it's like, what happened? Did he get him?
Well, that's why I was really interested to see what you would think, because that is 100% a 1970s way to end a movie.
Yeah.
Like, I think I even told you that last week when we were talking about Great Escape, about Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry, where like they didn't know how to end it, so you just drive your main characters into a train that's running by.
Yeah.
Everybody dies, the end, roll credits, and you're like,
that's it.
In the 70s, though, that's a satisfying ending, right?
Yeah.
And because everyone, like in the 70s, man, between the Vietnam War and later, this is a couple years before Watergate, but it's all in the air, right? People just are fine with ambiguity because life was very uncertain,
Oh yeah.
And so the entertainment didn't have cut and dried endings because nobody was living that life. I really think that's going to happen in the recent future, in the coming near future.
People are
That
going to start pulling that.
Well, stories are going to get more ambiguous, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of uncertainty in the world. Just kind of the same reason. Just the uncertainty is going to be different. That's all.
I partially agree with you. I think you'll see that with indie films. But I don't know about mainstream films. Like mainstream films just feels like they're, there's a lot of.
There's such a thing as a mainstream and an indie film now, in a world where it costs $20 to go see, Dial of Destiny, but it also costs $20 to go see Green Knight from A24. Right. And they make the same money, kind of, because everybody's just waiting for digital anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think like, clearly there's a huge difference between a movie. You give a movie a budget of like $10-20 million,
but that's just the studio, right?
Well, yeah, it's the studio, but I mean, like,
that's not mainstream though. Like all the studios, there are no mainstream studios anymore. All the production companies are all starting off at the same bit, except how much money can you get? And even that's not a big deal anymore, because sure, the big studios can get all kinds of funding, but man, so can little studios, because there's so much money from your 10 cent and tech bros and stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Like, I think maybe the reason some people consider certain films mainstream is because with a bigger budget, it's advertised more, right? So because it's advertised more, people know more about the film, versus like in indie films, when they have a lower budget, they're not advertised as much, so that people don't know about it.
But that's a marketing thing.
That's a marketing thing. Okay.
That I get what you're saying. Of course, on the level of like Paramount is going to make a mainstream movie because it's Paramount, right?
Sure.
And A24 isn't going to make a mainstream movie because nobody knows what A24 is yet. Except they kind of do. The people who are paying attention do, and the audience is not paying attention, so it doesn't matter. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So like when we went to go see Civil War, which was an A24 movie.
Yeah, I like that movie.
When it just happened to be, this is just anecdotal, but when we went to go see it, that was a sold out movie that everybody was watching at the particular time that we went in San Francisco on that day, right?
Yeah.
Everything else in our little multiplex, no one cared about.
Yeah.
You know, the little kids were going to see the little kids movies, and you know what I mean? There were people going to other stuff, but the line was going to Civil War, and it was like 2 weekends after it had come out.
Yeah.
And so
well, to be fair, also California to me it just feels like a film state.
I did say anecdotally, but all I'm saying is that I started paying attention to A24 then. Mm-hmm. Like I'd heard about Everything Everywhere All at Once, and I watched that, and it was great. But I didn't look at them like as a studio to watch because they had mostly been doing like little horror things, and who cares, right? For me, if you're me,
yeah.
And but this was very impacting to me that like a whole bunch of folks that California is a great movie place because we invented movies apparently, and I get it, but it was just interesting that this little nothing movie that was made for like $30 million or whatever was crushing it. And so I that's when I started. And when did that come out? A year or so, 18 months ago. And you kind of look at it like what's happened since then, that people just don't care anymore about like Sydney Sweeney is like a bigger movie star than Harrison Ford right now. Harrison Ford's doing like Jeep ads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then, and she'll come up and go, "Hey, Axe Body Wash," and then there's think pieces about that in the Atlantic. So it's like it kind of doesn't matter if you put in the time or if you paid your dues or whatever, because everything is all available to everywhere, everything all at once, which is I brought that together to A24.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that. I mean, like social media and the internet has just boomed so much to the point where like anybody can be famous now.
Here we're gonna get the science from Steve. So studios own the marketing channels, and they used to be separate companies.
Not anymore.
Okay. That's why y'all get pictures of Tom Cruise doing this with an explosion in the background for every movie poster that he's in.
So he's running.
Yeah. Does he run on movie posters? That's a new technology I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, probably like a lenticular poster.
That'd be awesome.
Moving around and see him running.
So we just went to go see something in the theater. I don't remember which. I'm probably thinking of Wicked then because I wasn't really paying attention.
You saw Captain America, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we saw Captain America, but this story I think it was for Wicked. It wasn't for Cap. Okay. I was looking around. It's the same theater though, so the same thing happens. I was looking at all the movie posters that they have set up, and that's where I personally see the difference between bigger studios and smaller studios. The bigger studios will release just the most generic vanilla movie poster of all time, right?
Yeah.
It's like, we don't want to offend you, please don't think about this guy being gay. It's like,
let's shrink him in the poster and build this guy up bigger on the poster.
Yeah, the stuff like that is so funny that like guys like us know that, like, oh, why is the villain's head bigger than the protagonist? Oh, because contractually that guy makes more money. So you know what I mean? And then like, forget it if it's an ensemble movie, because then it's just 13 heads on a poster over a car or something, and you're like,
it's just a
bunch I feel bad for the graphic designer of this one because he did the best he could with what they were asking.
We got to put all these faces in here so all the fan base knows who's who in the movie and go see the movie.
Your lower tier studios will just take really cool chances with their movie posters, and we're a movie poster family here, so
I want to. I try to collect some posters as well. I'd love to get like a display in the hallway, and then get like the frames that light up just like the movie theaters now showing.
We're not that big over here, but you know what? There's a company, Steve will know because he turned me on to this. But there's a company that does giant movie poster size frames, but they're the biggest pain in the ass to get nice and flat and looking good.
Yeah.
Except for this company, because the frames themselves are on hinges and they just kind of fold open.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
take the glass out, you put those on, put the glass on, fold the frames back up, hang it in like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Oh, I have one of those frames, but I got it from DC because DC was making these lenticular posters.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you just, you pop it open, you take the thing out, you put the poster in there, you put the thing on front of the poster, you click it in.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's awesome. I wish I had space to like hang it up.
I'm gonna start throwing stuff off of my walls to make room for those things because that's pretty cool.
So what is your earliest memory? What was your first impression of French Connection when you first watched it?
Oh, we went to the theater. I was like 10.
Oh, you were 10 when you saw the movie?
Yeah, my dad and my mom were going on a date, and my sister was staying at Barbara Stanton's house. I remember this because I never went to adult movies with my parents by myself.
Yeah.
Right? Like we'd do it with my sister. Like our whole family went to go see The Godfather. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
but
nice.
But we fell asleep in the middle of it. So, by the time all the good stuff is happening, we're just out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was really psyched. I remember liking it a lot. That was the kind of TV that my dad and I would watch at night, but on the big screen.
Nice.
So yeah, no, I loved it, but I had no idea who any of the actors were, what was going on. And it was just the right amount of violence for me as a little kid. Like that first scene, that would have been really iffy. Like I actually did this as a dad when Walker was younger. I'd go see like a Marvel movie first
to see how
make sure it was cool for him.
Yeah.
And then we'd go the next day and, it'd be great. And I'm like, I'm fine watching, Iron Man 2 or it was really funny when Black Panther came on because he was old enough. But I ended up, I don't know. I should ask Mark. I asked Steve, but I think, I don't know. I forget. But Black Panther, I saw like 4 times in like 48 hours.
Oh, wow. Nice.
I remember taking him. I went with Steve and Mark, I think. I think this is how it went. I went with Steve and Mark, and then I came back and we went with Walker and his buddies, the triplets, and some of their family. So every time we did something, it's like 12 people have to go around.
Yeah.
Because you're not just going with one of your friends, you're going with your 3 friends.
Right.
And then we went again the next day. So like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I saw it 4 times.
Wow. I remember those days when I used to do that.
Yeah, like pre-coronavirus, right?
Yeah.
And when everything was fine. Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, what made you think? Well, wait. So we did your impressions. What's Steve's second question? I can't even read my own handwriting.
How did it change my life?
No, well, you can do that one if you want, but I was thinking like what was a cool standout moment? But you kind of said that you like the chases.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I think probably my favorite moment was that train scene where on and off the train, because like I'm at one point I'm watching it and I'm thinking like, has he figured out, and then like obviously at the tail end when he like got off the train like 2-3 times, I was like, oh, he has to know. He has to know that, that Gene Hackman is following this dude,
Yeah.
And then especially like when he like got off the train and then literally just went right back in, but Gene Hackman played it like he didn't see it because he's trying to play it off like, oh, I need to get off the train too. And then the doors closed and then the train's gone. He's saying goodbye. And so like I got a kick out of that. I laughed a little bit and I was like, I enjoyed that scene, like the back and forth between those two.
So have you seen you've seen Daredevil, right?
Which one?
The new ones that just started out. Have you had?
No. I haven't even seen 3rd season.
I haven't either, but I don't care. Like I was kind of Daredeviled out, but I'm into this one. But they have a scene that takes place in a New York City subway.
Yeah.
And And so that just reminds me of all the 1970s movies in the French Connection class, like that I know you haven't seen. Like you haven't seen Dog Day Afternoon, right?
I think I've seen bits and pieces of that one.
Well, of course, like you're gonna get references because you watch The Simpsons, right? Like Attica, you know, you can get away with that all that you that's all you
No,
know
but I
from that
mean,
movie.
actually watching pieces of the film. I think I caught it on like one of the TV stations one day, and I started. I think I was really getting into like I think Al Pacino films
Huh?
a little bit. So that's why I kind of stopped. I watched it. I was like, oh, young Al Pacino, and like he's at the bank, and just
So
like
okay, but you haven't seen that all the way through. Have you seen Across 110th Street?
no, I haven't even heard of that one.
Okay, all right. Do you know who Quentin Tarantino is?
Of course.
I'll just be a jerk. Let's see. There's some other. There's some really. Oh, you've seen The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3, right? Not the remake. The first.
No, I haven't seen either one of them.
That one in Assault on Precinct 13. Man, I could just give you a list of 1970s movies that
Yeah.
like Randall. I can't talk to you until you watch all of these movies.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is like a pretty good example of the kind of thrillers that were coming out back then.
And speaking of thrillers, I also watched The Conversation.
Yeah, you know what? Why don't we go ahead and talk about that for a bit, because Harrison Ford's in it. Did you see him?
Yeah, dude. I was
Speaking
kind
of
of
young, right?
yeah. I mean, well, I've seen him in the Gene Wilder film,
Yeah, Frisco Kid.
Frisco Kid. Yeah, so I've seen him in that. And so, but
That's
what I
like
liked
1980 though. That's like
was it?
yeah.
I could have sworn it was like late 70s.
Well, 1980 is late 70s.
Okay. But no, like
1979, 80. It's still 1980.
yeah, it's there. It's there.
Up to about early 1982 is still the 70s.
Yeah. And but no, he played a creepy goon in this movie, which I don't normally see him play a character like that. So it was refreshing.
Harrison Ford? Oh, you mean the guy from Force 10?
Force 10.
Nice one, Chris. Anyway, sorry.
And but no, he was good, man. He was solid. Let me think here, like Francis Ford Coppola, like this is one of his early films that he directed, correct?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. There's a great shot looking down on Union Square in San Francisco. I mean, if you're a San Francisco person, you totally get what did I just hit that? I guess I did. It has a really good use of San Francisco as a character in the film. There's
Okay.
a lot of stuff. The geography of San Francisco is all hills, pretty wacky, and they use it as an impediment to like stuff that he's trying to find out.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. And then so there's a great shot that really focuses it all visually, in that he's sitting in the middle of this Union Square. It's a giant place where all the ritzy shops used to be before the coronavirus. Like Tiffany was down there, stuff like that,
Yeah.
And but there's no one around him, right? And they shoot from high above. And Mimi and I tried to figure it out one day because they have during the winter they have a little ice rink there, and and so one of the cool things is to go up to a restaurant and kind of look at everybody skating and having fun and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, I think this is pretty much where the camera was in The Conversation. And so we went out on the bit where you can actually go outside, and I was like, I swear to God, it was like 30 feet that way.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of like looked down, and it's really cool that you're like part of the scene, but above it, and you can kind of get the whole. Like, I guarantee that guy was getting burgers up there, just like us, like Coppola or whoever.
Yeah, and then just film.
And no, I mean, somebody wrote that scene though.
Yeah.
And I don't know who wrote that screenplay, but I bet they were like, oh yeah, let's get a shot from up here and just really get the idea that
they probably
be in the middle of the city, but also be alone.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's maybe the writer and even director. I mean, I think sometimes, you hang around in certain areas a lot, and you start thinking to yourself, like, you look at your surroundings and you start thinking like, hey, this would make for a great scene or a great shot right in this spot right here.
Let's see, who wrote The Conversation? Written, produced, and directed by Coppola. Well, then that makes all the sense in the world.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. Shields and Yarnell. These guys are having like another conversation. Because you don't know who Shields and Yarnell are, but in the old days of the late 70s and variety shows, they were a mime team.
Oh, okay. Okay.
They were really cool. They were the Captain and Tennille of mimes. And they actually were in that robot romance movie Heart Beeps with Bernadette Peters and Andy Kaufman. Have you ever seen that?
I wanted to see that movie.
I wonder. I don't know if we should do that next week. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I could make myself do that. It's not a good movie. Oh, Chris is saying they were in the conversation. Of course they were. That makes all the sense. So Randall's a little ahead of me, Chris, on this one because he was like, "Oh, I just went ahead and watched the conversation again anyway." And I was like, "Oh, I haven't seen that one for 15 years, easy." Like when the year that Enemy of the State came out with Will Smith, I watched it that year because I went to go see it, and I was like, "This is pretty much a sequel to the conversation."
Yeah.
To the point where they have, Gene Hackman in it. So I'm like, let's go watch the conversation. Oh, I love that movie. I loved it.
What's great was it was available on Fandango at home, their streaming service or their streaming purchase, and it was $5, 4K. I popped on the trailer, right, and they had made a new trailer because it's a 4K release of the Francis Ford Coppola film. And so just watching the trailer, I'm like, oh man, this movie looks great, and so of course I'm sitting there, I'm watching the film, and I'm like, nice, the ending of that film was a twist, it was a twist.
That's the 70s though, right? Nothing is as it seems.
Yeah. So,
and that's 1974. I'm pretty sure. It's after Watergate, I know, because I remember from when I watched it back in when the Enemy of the State came out, which, by the way, has a really cool font. I was trying to dope that font they used on the movie poster. I liked it. Yeah. Anyway, so 1974. There's a lot of Watergate stuff, going in on like nothing is as you seem. You can't trust anybody. No one's telling you the truth. It's
I don't know if you can hear the sound, but I feel like every time you move your beard, Larry, like there's like a scratching noise.
Let me see. Where's my microphone? This one or this one? This one. Oh, sorry, man. Yeah, it's worse when I have my Starfleet stuff on because on this side right here is where the magnetic rank things are.
Oh, so yeah.
There's these 4 like neodymium magnets that are pretty strong, and it just cuts out my microphone all the time. Anyway, sorry. I'll try not to move.
No, you're good. You're good. I just didn't know if you knew. That's all.
No, I can't. This is the technological aspect of our production here is not one of my main concerns.
Yeah. No, I know.
Although I have an announcement here at 4320. My good pal Tim Connolly, who did the Ukulele Hero, you can rent him. Just say, hey, come to my house and play the ukulele, and he'll be like, here's my performance here, and you're like, that's very reasonable. Can you learn Freebird? He's like, I already know it. And he'll play Freebird on ukulele for you. But anyway, he did the cool theremin inspired thing that's the music that we use for Dork Trek.
Oh, sweet.
And he was telling me when Guy Ritchie's Man from U.N.C.L.E. was out, his band actually did some tunes for them that they were like, hey,
sweet,
want to use this on the soundtrack? And they said no. I was going to say, of course, and only of course, not that they weren't worthy of inclusion, but rather, had they been included, we would have been talking about that before now.
Oh, so sure.
That's what I'm saying. They didn't use it, of course. Otherwise, I would have been talking about it. I know Tim and the guy who did it. Anyway, he's like, hey, I would get this cool spy music. You want 20 seconds to use for regular DORK COURT? And I said, yes.
Absolutely.
So that's so Tim, speaking of 70s spy stuff, Timmy's going to let us play some of his stuff. I don't know if it's from the Suck It Easy band that he was in. You've heard of Suck It Easy. I know you have.
I haven't.
But just at this point,
Surprise twist.
it's the
Surprise.
band. I'm talking about the band.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I know. I've heard of Oingo Boingo.
everybody who has heard of the Suck It Easy band is because of their cool song. I forget what he ended up calling it, but I wrote them a song about the Fantastic Four.
Oh,
and
nice.
and I just had some lyrics, and he's like, "Oh, can we have this?" And I was like,
Yes.
"Yes." So somewhere on the internet, I think he ended up calling it something like the Trank movie wasn't that bad or something like that. But it's a pretty rocking song.
I'll have to hear it.
Anyway, Anyway, so the guy who was in the Suck It Easy band, not sure they're a band anymore, much like all the other bands that are not bands anymore. Like All Fall Down. Oh my God, Scott Johnson. Can I tell you, get your band back together, man. Anyway.
Form a super band.
I don't know if they are even in the same. I'm sure Scott's like lost his fingers in some kind of industrial accident now.
So really?
Randall, if you ever have the thought where I'm saying some nonsense thing with a complete straight face, and you have the thought, really? I beg you, do not say that out loud. Because the answer is no, not really.
You got me again, Larry.
I rarely say things.
Look, I'm turning into a Simpsons character, right? Where it's like you're gonna say something, and I'm like, huh? And
turning into
it becomes the routine there.
I think that would be cool. A routine. Anyway, so anything about the conversation you want to say other than also another form
you were talking about music, and that's one of the things I did want to mention was there's a couple pieces in the score music that I really, really got, and I don't know if you've seen the show Severance.
I've seen the first season and the first episode of the second one.
Okay, good. Yeah. So like the main theme song for Severance, there's like a couple piano notes in there, and I swear I think those similar notes were in some of the music for the conversation. So I was really getting Severance vibes, and so I it makes me wonder, like, if when like Ben Stiller was making the show, like maybe a little bit of the conversation is inspiration for.
I wouldn't doubt that at all, man. That's a great observation.
Yeah,
like Ben Stiller's pretty smart. Everybody thinks, oh, he's the guy with snot on his face or whatever, but
oh, dude, yeah.
No,
I mean,
that guy's smart, and
yeah.
I don't doubt it.
Yeah, and so that's why, like, I'm watching the movie and like just seeing Gene Hackman's character where he's just so paranoid, like it was fun. It was fun to see, like, even the ending of the movie, right, where they tell him, like, they're literally recording him while he's in there playing his saxophone, and they play it back to him to prove to him, like, we're watching you, we're listening. And then, like, he's just tearing up his whole apartment just to see if he can figure out how they recorded him,
Yeah.
And it's like I mean, it's a very underrated Coppola film, and and he uses a lot of
highly rated. How do you say that's an underrated film?
It's underrated because I really don't hear a lot of people talk about it. They're always going to talk about Godfather 2.
I got you.
Was it speaking of which, one other, didn't he do Apocalypse Now?
Yes, Francis Ford Coppola.
Yeah, never seen it.
What? Oh no, I don't even think we could do a thing on Apocalypse Now because we just gotta chat. We're like buddies. Apocalypse Now would make me start talking like a film critic.
Sure.
And yeah, you wouldn't like that conversation, man. I would keep interrupting you, and I wouldn't let you talk, because
that's
it was
fine.
like, no, Daddy's got this one, Randall.
Let me tell you why you're wrong and I'm right, and this is what
I wouldn't do it like that.
I know, I'm kidding.
That's a pretty dense movie, and I know a lot about the production of it.
Yeah,
and I don't really have an emotional attachment to it, like to Star Trek, because the reason I know all this stuff is because this is my father-in-law's favorite movie. So I've seen that movie a lot.
Yeah.
And had lots of conversations about it. But my father-in-law was an on-air news reporter for Quran Channel 4 in San Francisco. Yeah. So he knows all about narrative, but wants to come at it as a reporter, which is the last thing you can do with fiction. So we have really good conversations about like movies that he likes,
Yeah, yeah.
because he wants them to be
From his
more
point of
new.
view.
He wants them to be more news items about, you know, destroying the Death Star. Like
Yeah.
he wants to have like all the facts, and like how modern
The
audiences
death
are
toll on
like,
the Death Star is now announced at 3,000 people.
it's more that he doesn't like ambiguity in his narrative, right?
Yeah,
Because he's so about the
the facts.
reporting the story correctly.
Yeah.
And that I would try to this is the biggest achievement of my adult life, actually, was I finally got him to admit that an 80% true story with 20% awesome on it is still acceptable if you're doing fiction narrative. Like,
Okay.
obviously that's not acceptable for news,
Right.
but you have to take things under its own context, right? And
Sure.
so like nobody's gonna say to a full-on like news reportage about, you know, rodents carrying hantavirus in New Mexico, and
Yeah.
then like say, and there's aliens, you know. Like, yeah, okay, that'll make people pay attention, but like that's 20%, you know, fantastical stuff,
Right.
and it's more fiction. But like if you tell the whole thing, it's a, you know, well, that doesn't really come up that often, and you have to live in a desert area, and you have to be like sweeping up droppings and inhale that to get this crazy thing, right? So like a news reporter's thing is going to be kind of like, well, here's the thing to look out for, but most people aren't going to have to. That's
Right.
boring as shit. But if it came from aliens, well, now everybody's listening, right? But
Right. Right.
anyway, one's a movie and one's news.
So, like, with all the conversations you had with him, what was a conversation you had with him where he was just like, "This is the absolute worst movie ever"?
Oh no, see, it's kind of not even that. It's like he just gets in the weeds because we know all about. There's an entire documentary actually shot by Coppola's wife called Hearts of Darkness.
Yeah.
That's basically their home movies, and she was like, you know, this is actually a narrative of you're going to work yourself to death for a film.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot known about the production of this movie, and my father-in-law like knows it all like he was on the crew.
Oh, but I'm just saying, like, in movies in general, like, I wonder if he ever talked to you and was like, "Oh, this is the worst movie I've ever seen."
No, because he doesn't. No, because he's a reporter. You know,
When I say this is the worst movie I've ever seen, I'm not talking about Apocalypse Now. I mean, just
I'm just
any movie in general.
I'm just saying that because he's a reporter, he doesn't interact with movies the way we do,
Okay.
right? It's just kind of like this fun, fluffy thing. It's like we
Okay.
tried to get him to watch Pirates of the Caribbean because we were like, it's a pretty straightforward movie. It's like a roller coaster ride. It's literally based on the Disneyland thing. You know,
Yeah.
what is he going to say about this movie? Because he's kind of a movie snob because of this, right?
Oh, okay.
And he's like, oh, the cannon fire's too loud. And I'm like, well, if that's your big takeaway from the first Pirates of the Caribbean, you know, we're not really going to be talking about movies at the like fan appreciation level.
Right.
It's more he's interested in how the narrative is constructed and how the production went, you know,
Okay.
because you know he
The
grew up
technical stuff.
he grew up in the 70s where, like, you know, he loves the A24 movies now
Oh, okay. That's good.
because it's like all the stuff that young audience modern audiences can't really take, like, well, how did that happen? Like, it's so obvious that, you know, the main character left that room, turned the light off, and split and went to get the ice cream he was talking about. And like modern audiences want him to see, flip the switch off, go down the stairs, talk to Charlie, and get his ice. It's like, you don't need to do that. Just move it
No.
along. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
he'll have something to say about that stuff. But then it's just like those two of us are just old men going, yeah, fuck that shit. Remember Vanishing Point? Yeah, that was a good movie, dude. We should do Vanishing Point. Do you like?
Okay.
I don't want to get stuck in 70s movies, but it's not a cop movie. It's an action movie.
Okay.
It's about a guy who's got it's a movie, like, you read Black Diamond, didn't you? That comic we did, or did you not?
No, I didn't get around to reading that
right.
one. I read the Astronauts in Space.
Yeah, the Black Diamond one is there's a bunch of movies that came out in the 70s, like called there's one with James Taylor called Two-Lane Blacktop, Vanishing Point, and Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry. There's one more that, like, I just watched all 4 of those movies one weekend, and I was like, oh my god, I can do this. And that's what Black Diamond is. I'll mail you the trade.
Okay.
You'll like it. If you like 70s stuff, it's like, and dude, we did a color comic book. I can't believe you didn't read our color comic book. Oh, Duel. That's a good one. We should do Duel. How are you on Steven Spielberg? You like Spielberg movies?
I do love Spielberg. That's his first film, right?
Yeah, you haven't seen that, have you?
Yeah. No, I haven't. I think Michael Gross is in it.
Let's do Duel next week.
Okay.
Let's see if we can find it. Let's do Duel, and then man, I think we should wait on Apocalypse Now. We should do Apocalypse Now when we can't think of one. That will be one in our pocket. It'll be like, we'll keep going. And and next week Apocalypse Now. I'm sorry, Matt Damon.
Yeah, we're finding a bunch of stuff that I haven't seen. Like a lot of the stuff that you guys are very familiar with, and it's like like you I think you named off like 2-3 things already, and I was like, oh no, I haven't seen that one.
Well, it's kind of not your fault, right? It always comes across like, what's wrong with you personally, Randall? And it's not that. It's like TV is so different. Like, I watched all of this stuff on TV the first time, right? And then if I liked it, I'd get VHS tapes or find it or be at somebody's house. You need to love You need to love Hopper. Oh yeah, Dennis Hopper is in Apocalypse Now.
Oh, of course. I mean,
he's in it for He's in it for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Well, not 3 seconds, but Spielberg's in it for 3 seconds because Dennis Hopper is playing a combat photographer correspondent guy.
Yeah.
And there's a bit where he's got a camera crew, and the guy shooting the camera is Steven Spielberg.
Oh,
cool.
Nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool for guys like us.
I remember Spielberg making a cameo in Blues Brothers.
Oh yeah, well, he's got a cameo in Blues Brothers. Where's that?
Yeah, I mean, I think he was like in some they were like getting some information, and like he was working in a booth or something like that, and like opened up the glass. They looked at him, and he's like, "Hey, do you know where this is at, or is so and so here?" And
I got to go watch Blues Brothers again.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him, but that's because he was so young, and I'm so used to seeing older Spielberg.
Sure, yeah. Should have won an Academy Award for that role. Yeah, the combat photographer.
Yeah,
war correspondent. I forget. I guess he's a writer.
Here's
your receipt.
A great director's cameo was in Spies Like Us.
Oh yes, Ukraine loves that movie.
Yeah, I'm a fan of John Landis. I really like his directing style.
Oh my God, Steve! We have a. Of course, yes. Sorry, John Landis. Of course, we love John.
No, you're good.
Sorry about that Twilight Zone movie.
Oh yeah,
but otherwise he's pretty good. No, but Steve just sent me a little message saying that Ed O'Neill from TV's Married with Children.
Yeah,
did a Popeye Doyle TV show back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And from 1986.
Oh, so before Married with Children.
That's pretty cool. Ace Tomato Company, big fan. Here's your receipt. Anyway, yeah, that's cool. What did we say? What are we doing next week?
I think you said Duel.
You want to do? Let's see if we can find Duel, but let's pick another one because I got a feeling that might not be as readily available as all this other stuff.
I'm trying to think what other ones. I think
we can go really fast, I guess, while we're here.
I
have to split. That's all.
Oh, sure. I remember we talked producers.
Where to watch the Duel? Apple TV, YouTube, Stars. Oh, Stars is my kryptonite of streaming because we literally have too many streamers.
Yeah.
And so Mimi's like, we don't need Stars.
No.
And so like every 5th movie that Walker and I are trying to watch is like, oh, available with your Stars subscription.
The only time I had Stars last time was there was this wrestling show that I was watching that I really enjoyed. Heels.
Oh yeah, that was the one with Green Arrow, right?
Yeah. I got 2 seasons. It's a pretty solid show. Oh, what's his name from what's the astronaut series on Apple?
For All Mankind.
For All Mankind, thank you.
Yeah.
He was on the first 3 seasons.
Which one? Joel? That guy?
He oh gosh. He was in True Blood. Played like the sheriff. It's kind of like balding. He was like in charge of the space program.
Okay.
I know you've said his name before. Like I just can't think of his name.
I'll find out later and put it on the internet.
Yeah. He was on Heels also. He was great on Heels.
Okay. I believe you.
Yeah.
I just heard, speaking of Apple and For All Mankind, which makes me think of Star Trek, which makes me think fucking Paramount Plus has not said when season 3 of Strange New Worlds is coming out, but they did feel the need to tell us that they started shooting season 4 already. So,
okay.
So that's cool, but can I have season 3?
Yeah.
Or start telling me season 4 is being shot?
That means maybe season 3 is going to launch soon.
I got a feeling it's probably be April or May sometime.
Nice.
Although For All Mankind is like November.
So, is it?
So screw you, friggin' strikes that put everything late. And
is this going to be the last season of For All Mankind?
Is this 4th or 5th?
I think 5th.
I think I don't know. I mean, they always announce it halfway through the season that's airing, that if it's been updated. And Ron Moore and the boys, I'll say that they have 7 years in mind. So
okay.
This would be the 4th one. But yeah, it's starting to get. The reason I love that show is because it was alternate history. It's like, what would happen if Russia landed on the moon first?
Yeah.
And then it's really cool right around up until the 90s, early 2000s. But now it's just going to be straight science fiction, right? I mean, they have bases on the moon and Mars in the year 2003.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know. So
I mean, like the colony on Mars will expand, right? And then they'll be like, oh, now we have like a government. And then we have
like
election going on. It'll turn into like a political thriller.
They kind of already did that, right? That the corporations are abusing the workers, so they had a little worker uprising.
Oh, the strike and all that. Yeah.
It was more of a riot. Is it really a strike? But so you can imagine if they jump about 10 years between every season, so they don't have to go through a whole season of like, here's us building the moon base. It's like, here's the first thing. And so 3 more years of that, and they're going to be like, it's going to be Star Trek by the last season, right?
Oh yeah. What's the actor's name? Joel Kinnaman?
Yeah, Kinnaman. That's what I was trying to say. Is it the guy from the Harley Quinn movie? What was that?
Or Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Huh.
Yeah. No, I just figure like the last couple seasons he's in, he's just going to be like in a wheelchair. He's just going to be motorized, going around everywhere. Like,
he's like about, his character is about 83 right now, and he's on Mars. And so, last season I made him a little headstone and everything because he's dying on Mars, man. He's going to be the first guy to get the Martian gravestone.
Yeah.
Davros. I love every once in a while Chris will just say some random like pop culture thing. Like that's a bad guy in Doctor Who. So are you saying Joel Kinnaman needs to be Davros? Because I'd be down with that. That would be awesome.
I gotta watch Doctor Who.
No, don't watch Doctor Who. You would cry because there's no continuity in it at all. Wheelchair bad guy. That's what he's saying. Okay.
Oh, okay. Wheelchair bad guy. Yeah.
I get it. So, don't watch Doctor Who. It's timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. If you didn't start watching Doctor Who when you were about 7 and got really scared of shit and you would go and hide behind your couch because the TV was full of stuff that was scaring you, but it was cool as hell, so you kind of like look around the TV. If that wasn't your start of interaction with Doctor Who, you're not going to get it. That
was actually my reaction to the Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah.
So
there you go, right? Like that's a perfect example. Like me, I was taking girls to that movie and we were drunk, so I'm an adult.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what a fucking waste of time. But if you come to it when you're young and you get something out of it, then it becomes part of like your pop culture experience.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have a special love for Friday the 13th. There's just, growing up watching it and just like the
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Steve's telling us to leave. That's it. We got to go.
Yeah.
4:06.
All right. So so Duel and
let's try to do Duel, and if that doesn't work, we'll figure it out, and everybody will go, hey, nice try, lads.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Randall. That was fun.
Yeah, same here, man. I'm glad I don't normally watch 2 movies in the week, but I figured, these were
That was awesome. You really surprised me when you said that. It made me happy though, because I was like, oh man, he's into the 70s thing. He's doing the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That movie is really, I love that movie. It's really
yeah, I mean, what's funny is I don't know which one I like more, because I think Conversation might have been, I like the directing style more. I think the story was better. But they're different films, right? One's a thriller, and then the other one's more of an action drama, and so, and I love action movies, so
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right, thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye. And story, go room.